The grid method is a really good way to get a very accurate line drawing, but it's not without its problems. One of the problems with the grid method is that it's time consuming and tedious. You have to draw a grid over your photo reference and you have to draw a grid over your drawing paper. Now if you have a T-square, you can save yourself a little bit of time because you can make your measurements with a ruler first, just going across the top every ½ inch. And going down one side every ½ inch. And then you could come in with your T-square and draw in your lines. Now if you don't have a T-square, you'll have to make another set of measurements. You'll have to measure going across the top and across the bottom, and then you'll have to measure on the left side and the right side. So if you don't have a T-square, it takes even longer because you have to make two sets of measurements, and then you can line up those marks very carefully. And then draw your line across. So a T-square will save you a little bit of time, but drawing a grid over your photo reference and then drawing another grid over your drawing paper is still very time consuming. Another problem with the grid method is that once you get your line drawing done, you'll have to erase your grid lines. And sometimes, no matter how carefully you erase and how much time you spend trying to erase, sometimes you just cannot get rid of the grid lines entirely. Of course, this problem can be mitigated by drawing your grid very lightly, but I have had times where I have carefully drawn my grid very lightly and I still end up with a little bit of a line. Another problem that I've had in the past with the grid method is that sometimes I can draw my grid very carefully and lightly, and when I erase the grid lines, they're completely gone. But once I start shading my drawing, the part of the paper that I erased doesn't hold graphite as well as the part of the paper that I didn't erase. This is a close-up on a drawing I did many years ago, and although it may not be easy to see on video, there's a hint of a line where I erased. And these grid lines are still visible. Now these are not the grid lines that I drew, but this is where I erased, and the paper just wouldn't hold graphite as well as it normally would.
When you end up with what I call ghost grid lines, it can ruin your whole drawing. The drawing that I showed you a moment ago is one that I was happy with the exception of the ghost grid, so I actually had to spend another 8 to 10 hours and do that whole drawing over again. The grid method really is a great way to get an accurate line drawing, which is why I love to use it when I'm drawing portraits, because accuracy is so important. But I was also very frustrated with all of the potential problems with the grid method. So over the years I've come up with a number of solutions to all of these various problems. And I'm getting all of the benefits of the grid method without all of the issues. In my new video, Keeping Things in Proportion Using the Grid Method, I'll share with you all of the tips, techniques, and strategies that I use to get the most out of the grid method while also avoiding all of its biggest drawbacks. Keeping Things in Proportion Using the Grid Method is 1 hour and 23 minutes long. And in this video I share with you all of my best techniques for getting the most out of the grid method while easily sidestepping all of its biggest problems.